For many of us, Sunday gatherings have been a key place where we've grown spiritually. And right now we're missing those special moments of worship, fellowship, prayer and discovery. Many of us are feeling a little emptier. Maybe a question we should all be asking at the moment is, how do I keep growing spiritually at home? How do I stay hungry for Jesus and keep connected to him? How do I keep my faith alive and well, active and well fed, growing deeper, stronger, higher and further? How can I use this space and time to have a faith that is homegrown? Hi there, and welcome to a new Bethel live teaching series called Homegrown. It's designed to be a space where we can ask questions of our own spiritual growth and hopefully provide some ideas, instruction, inspiration for how we can keep growing as the church even when we can't keep going to church. Life in lockdown has given a lot of us a precious chance to really examine our lives. It may have felt like life under a microscope at times, but that in itself might not be a bad thing if there are things underneath the surface that are unhealthy for us. Maybe there are things that God is wanting us to see down there and to seek his help and his healing in. When I went off to university, one of the weirdest experiences for me was Sundays. Now, I wish I could say that was some sort of super spiritual struggle, but Sunday lunch back at Mum's was something special. I can smell it now, the chicken, the roast potatoes, the gravy, every type of vegetable known to man, cauliflower, cheese. My mum knows how to cook. Somehow in college, grabbing a cold pasty or a cheeky pot noodle on the way back to student accommodation just wasn't the same. But just because I couldn't have Mum's Sunday lunch every Sunday, I still had to learn to feed myself. And like it or not, part of growing up means we all have to learn to feed ourselves. In fact, as special as the big Sunday lunches are, maintaining a good daily diet is actually far more essential to our growth and to our whole health. It's not hard to see that that is equally true of our spiritual health. To hope to grow our faith by Bible binging on the weekends and hoping that that spiritual food will sustain us till next Sunday is absolutely mental. For months now, the big Sunday feast has been off the menu, and those of us in the business of trying to feed the flock have had to find new ways to teach and preach and encourage, comfort and inspire. And I want to say a huge thank you to everyone for the way in which you've engaged in new ways and supported and encouraged me and each other. But maybe this provides another life under the microscope moment. How are you feeding your faith right now? How is your faith growing at home? So how are you feeding yourself in God's Word at home? That might be a far more important question than you first think. I'm absolutely fascinated by the story of a man Jesus once met called Legion. Legion was a man who was severely tormented and oppressed by demonic powers. In fact, he got his name from the number of demons that had possessed him. As you can imagine, these dark spiritual forces were running amok in his life. He lived out amongst the tombs. His behaviour was so erratic, people tried to chain him up, but he would rip the chains right off. He would cut himself with rocks and be heard crying out right through the night. Listen, don't play games with the spiritual realm. The Bible tells us that God has given us everything we need for life and godliness. If you start toying with other forces, they can and will get a grip and start toying with you and make a horrible mess of your life. I've seen it too many times not to want to warn you. And this was Legion's story. He was the kind of man that people would go out of their way to avoid, who battled with issues you'd want to avoid, who lived in a place you would certainly want to avoid. But when Jesus sees this man manically running towards him, skin dirty and torn, he doesn't run away. He stands with the man, commands the impure spirits to leave, and at Jesus' authority they have no option but to fly away. One word from Jesus, and this man is sat still at Jesus' feet, in his right mind, his dignity restored. So much so that people can see the change from a distance and are nervous in the presence of Jesus' power. If you've given place in your life to another spiritual authority, the place for you is at the feet of Jesus. He can do for us what we cannot do for ourselves. He can cancel it. He can clear it. He can clean it. He can and will clean you. Come to Jesus. And then Legion, or whatever his name was now, I'm pretty sure he would have wanted to change it, then asks Jesus if he can get in the boat that Jesus is leaving in and follow him. And Jesus says, no. It's fascinating that Jesus, who normally told people, come follow me, told his disciples, go into all the world, told this brand new disciple, go home to your own people and tell them how much the Lord has done for you and how he has had mercy on you. There were 10 major cities in this region, and so ex-Legion goes from city to city, and this excitement about Jesus spreads because the change in him was so obvious. There was a living, breathing sermon that his undeniably transformed life could preach in his hometown that wouldn't have the same impact abroad. Go home, Jesus says. I wonder how many times I've asked Jesus for some new adventure and he's wanted to tell me, no, not yet. Go home. The Christian educator Howard Hendricks once put it this way: if your faith doesn't work at home, don't export it. Does your faith work at home? Let me ask you that question another way. What kind of home are you for God's word? The Apostle Paul writes, let the message of Christ dwell among you richly as you teach and admonish one another with all wisdom through psalms, hymns and songs from the Spirit, singing to God with gratitude in your hearts. Colossians 3 verse 16. The word dwell there in that verse means to take up permanent residence in a place, a settler, not a tourist, someone who lives out of a wardrobe, not a suitcase, the inner condition of feeling fully and rightfully at home somewhere. Is the message of Jesus at home in you? Does it inhabit your life, your thoughts, your choices, your habits, your speech? I love the way Paul here encourages the church not to just hear it, but to digest it and share it. He says, teach it, apply it, speak it, sing it. Have you invited the message of Jesus to move in, to unpack, so that these things, the teaching, applying, speaking, sharing of his word in how you live your life, feel like part of the furniture and not foreign to you? I'm sure we've all had that experience of being somewhere where we feel a bit like a square peg in a round hole, where we can't be at home, we can't be relaxed, we can't be ourselves. But you may have also had that experience of being welcomed unconditionally and accepted personally, embraced fully. What kind of a home are we for Jesus' words, for his message, for his ways, for his truth, for his grace? If it doesn't work at home, don't try to export it. So how do we unpack it? How do we allow the message of Christ, the words of Jesus, to be at home, to dwell in our lives? When I was in college, I was missing Sunday lunch so much that I decided to go to a restaurant one Sunday, no kidding. So there in the middle of this random carvery in London was a lonely Welsh theological student tucking into this huge plate of food. But eating alone wasn't somehow quite the same. It wasn't just what was on the table that I was missing, but it was those around the table that you share it with that really make it. And maybe it would help you to find somebody who can commit to read God's word with you. Someone who loves Jesus, who loves this message, who you would trust to really explore what God is saying through his word into your lives together. Somebody who would ask you, where does Jesus fit into your life? Where is his voice carrying authority over other forces, other influences? Where is his word making changes in your life? Where does his message still need to find an unconditional welcome and take pride of place? Who doesn't need somebody to ask them those kind of questions? So who could you do that with? And who could you do that for?
Every day we ask so many questions. What should I wear? What's the weather going to be like? How am I going to fit everything in? But then there are those bigger questions, like why am I here? Where am I heading? Is there more to life than this?
I had arrived at an answer to the most important issue that we humans ever deal with. Is there a God? And I had arrived there without ever really looking at the evidence. And I was supposed to be a scientist.
At 28, I had gotten many of the things that I thought I wanted. My girlfriend was on the cover of magazines, I had a Beamer, and I was so unhappy. It was a realization maybe that I would never find happiness where I was looking for it.
I think for so many years, I always just strived to be strong in myself. All I needed was me and my buddies and, we'd be like invincible. But the truth is, none of us are.
I found purpose, I found meaning, I found hope. God took something so broken and made it a beautiful art piece.
Alpha is a place where you can be yourself. You can say what you think and challenge everything. No question is too complex or too simple. And what your point of view is as important as anyone else's.
We are going on a journey together, an adventure to explore the questions of life, faith, and meaning.